Happy New Year, everyone. This is Scott, and welcome to the weekly trade report video for the week of January 1st, 2017. So I hope you guys had a great holiday weekend. The market is closed tomorrow, so it'll open on Tuesday, so we'll have a shortened week like we did last week. Just really quick, I hope you guys had a good year in 2017 trading. I had a really good year. My account closed up 729%, which I know is pretty impressive, but it's possible. And I don't say that to, impress you guys, but if you put in the work and you learn how to trade and learn the chart patterns, then you can do really well in the market. And let me just say really quick that I didn't watch a single episode of CNBC. I don't watch financial news, and because it's a lot of noise and it's not going to help you make money. And so there's a lot of noise out there, but what I'm trying to help you guys do and what I've learned to do is to read chart patterns and setups that indicate what a stock is most likely to do. And you don't need people's opinions. You just need to learn how to read the charts, how to learn the patterns, things like that. And a lot of that stuff out there is just noise. CNBC to me is one of them. And then also from a fundamental perspective, I don't read earnings reports. I don't try to figure out what the company's value is, anything like that. I'm just trying to figure out what is the chart pattern telling me and what is it indicating, because it's humans that are trading in the market and their emotions are reflected in the chart patterns, and that's what you have to learn how to read and how to trade those. And so that's what I do my best to show you guys what I'm looking at, what I'm seeing. And let me also say that a real education in the market will come from making trades, tracking your trades and learning from your mistakes, and then working and fixing those mistakes for the next time. And it takes time, and everybody's at a different level in their trading. But if you want to be a good trader, persistence, grit, and determination to not quit. Eventually, you'll become better and better at this, and you'll learn not to make the mistakes you did before. And nobody's perfect, so you'll get better over time. But it's possible to do really well in the market once you learn how to trade. So I just wanted to put that out there at the beginning of the new year. So anyway, let's start off looking at the SPY, the S&P 500. So just really quick, through my scans this weekend, I didn't really see a lot of strength in any particular sector outside of the marijuana sector, and also the real estate investment trusts. For whatever reason, a lot of those REITs are looking pretty good, although I don't typically trade those. Take a look at that sector of the REITs. They closed pretty strong last week, and so there's probably some trade opportunities there on the put some of those on the main watch list, but not on the top trade ideas for Tuesday. So just keep that in mind. The real estate investment trust and the marijuana sector are the two that I see strength in at this moment. So take a look at the SPY, S&P 500. So here was the election, the run-up, brief pullback, rally to new highs, and then now it had a pullback here, and then it failed to follow through and broke below this recent low. So at this point, I would say the market's in an intermediate term downtrend until otherwise, because this is a first lower high from here, right? And then it broke below this recent low. So it's kind of stair-stepping down. Now the next support maybe is down here at 221 on the SPY, and maybe it can find some support there. But at this point, I would say the intermediate term is down at this point, unless something happens on Tuesday, which it could. And but basically, kind of a resting period right now is what I can see in the major indexes. And then let's take a look at IWM. Kind of the same thing, right? Brief pullback, rally to new highs, brief pullback, failed to follow through and break the recent high, and then pull back and looks like it may break. But it is sitting here at this recent high pivot point here at 134. That could be a level. So basically kind of a sideways to maybe an intermediate term correction in the market is what I'm seeing at this point. So There's the two, we'll take a look at those. And then, let's see, IVB, the biotech. I thought this sector on this day here was actually going to follow through and push through this 276 area, and then it failed. And then now it's back here, back at the beginning of this opening of this gap here. So is this thing going to fall through? Is IVB going to fail and break down to new lows? At this point, we don't know. It's basically in a range now between 264, 276. For real confirmation, I would say that this IVB needs to break through 276. It's acted as a resistance basically 1, 2, 3, 4 times. So at this point, it's directionless, and that's what I'm seeing there in the biotech index. And then let's see here, XLF financial index, kind of the same thing. Looks like it's at support maybe right here, but I will say that the financial stocks still look strong to me, even though the XLF kind of is pulled back and resting here. Basically, I would say this is a range between 23 and 84, something like that. So I think the financial sector still looks strong at this point. A lot of those names still look strong in the financial, like the banks particularly. So it should just be a temporary resting period for them. And then let's see, real quick, let's take a look at XLE. Kind of a similar thing, right? You had this big run up, pull back, and then it failed to fall through and then broke down to a new low. So one thing you could do is, put a line across these recent highs here. So that would be the first indication if you can break this downtrend by breaking through this recent high right here, this lower high. That'd be an important pivot point right in there. Stretch that over, something like that. If it can break through that recent high there on the upside, that would be an indication of upside continuation. So those are the sectors, major index sectors there. And then so let's look at last week, some of my trade ideas from last week. First up, let's take a look at EAPH, which turned out to be an excellent trade. I was talking about this one. It's a marijuana stock, and it had this beautiful pattern here right around 2 cents. Okay, so here it tested it once, twice, 3 times, and then it started ramping up, and then kind of see this rising trend line here. And then so when it ramped up through this 2 area, I bought some at just below 2, and my target, which I mentioned on Twitter, was 3 cents. And so I've held that one, and then on Friday it got pretty close to 3, and I closed out my position with almost a 50% gain. And so it was the pattern that really drove me to trade this, as well as the sector strength in the marijuana sector. So once again, I like to look at a lot of the names in the sector, see what are they doing, are they creating similar patterns? And the answer is yes. A lot of the names were showing strength, and we'll walk through those. But that gave me more confirmation in this trade. And so anyway, that's EAPH. That was a good trade. Now it looks a little bit extended now, but the marijuana sector still looks strong, so this one could get more upside. But it's kind of extended from this 2 cent level, so I think it could pull back a little bit, maybe to this recent high here, or maybe it could keep going. But I'm pretty satisfied there with a 50% gain on the trade EAPH. So there's other names that we'll look at that looks like they're not extended yet, and with similar patterns in the sector. So another marijuana stock that was on our watch list last week is GRNH, and this is a great example of kind of understanding the different trends of a stock. So here is an uptrend. See this, rally, brief pullback, new high. So stair stepping, higher highs, higher lows, and then here it had a big fall, got extended, and then on this rally it failed to follow through and it put in a lower high. Okay, so at this point this thing's now in a downtrend. So here's your downtrend line, you draw it across the peaks. Okay, and then the first indication this thing was breaking the downtrend was, okay, so here, see each of these lows, lower low, lower low, lower, and then right here at this area right here is a higher low than this low. So there's your first indication that the trend could be changing. And then it broke the downtrend line, okay, another indication, and then put in another higher low. Okay, so here's your See that? See how this is a higher low and then a higher low? And basically right in this area here, this high right here was a nice pivot point. So as this thing, as you can see, it kind of corresponds with the high of this wick on this candle. And as it breaks through that, there's your trigger there, right around 8 cents. And this thing closed all the way up at, close to 10 cents. So this indicates to me that it's in a longer term uptrend now. Okay, so GRNH could very well be heading back to 15 cents a share. This is a transition to an uptrend here. So I'll be watching this one as well. GRNH, another marijuana stock. And, remember back in October when these things took off, I mean, I really did really well with these names as they started ramping up. And these things can be very lucrative if if you're willing to trade penny stocks. But the patterns, the patterns are across all sectors and all stocks, whether it's a penny stock or a listed stock. It's because human nature doesn't change. The patterns repeat, and they're applicable to all markets. So there's GRNH. I like that one. So IPI, this one's been kind of a tough one. I traded this one back here, bought some here, rode this day, had a very nice day here, and then I didn't sell all of it, and I held some and kind of held through this pullback here. And then, because I still like this pattern, and I still, even to this day, I still like this thing. So 2 cents is a clear support level, right? It held that 2 cent level, and then resistance is up here, like 270, somewhere in this area up here, okay? So it's in a range, but the reason I like this chart is if you look at the longer term, this thing had been beaten down, look at this, down, 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 and then it flatlined here, flatline, put in a nice long base, and then it came out with news that they're looking for strategic alternatives. Potentially they could be doing an offering or getting bought out by another company. But when this thing broke out through this basically 180 spot, ran up, this was an indication that maybe this thing is starting a new up leg, a longer term uptrend. And in the sector, in the fertilizer sector, Mosaic ended up acquiring Vale fertilizer business, and then also I think it was Potash of Saskatchewan had bought Agrium, which is going to close later this year. So there's some consolidation in this fertilizer sector. So I think there's a decent chance that this IPI gets bought out. Now I will say that if it doesn't hold this 2 cent level, I'm out. I still have a position here. I took profits, and then I also had a very nice day here, but I still held some. So there's a position that I'm in, and I'm slightly underwater still. I'm partial on this day here. It fell down, but I was looking at, okay, if this thing can hold 2, which was the recent low down here, and it definitely closed above 2 both these last 2 days. So maybe if this thing can hold here, maybe it's going to head back up here. So anyway, or if you wanted to initiate a position, you could buy this thing and use your stop here as a, at 2 cents as a close below 2 would be your stop. But anyway, it's fundamental support and resistance playing out here. It's in a range. It's at the lower end of the range here. So if 2 holds, it could very well be heading back up here to 260, 70 area. So there's IPI. ARRY, this one has been trying to break out. If you can look at this kind of, this one, once again, I traded this one way back here at 7, rode it all the way up, took profits somewhere in here, and then it's just basically been flatlining for a few weeks. But it keeps trying to test this 9 cent, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, keeps testing that, and it still just can't break it. But I think this one is a great one to watch here. If we can get a push towards 9 and then a break of 9 with some expanding volume, that would be one on watch. ARRY, it's a biotech, so keep that in mind. But the pattern is pretty constructive here. It's consolidating. So if it breaks 9, I think it's a good trade. Maybe this week. So ACAD is another one that is a biotech, but it was on watch here for this break of 30, which failed. But the pattern still looks pretty good. Let's see. So yeah, so right around this. Let's go back to the 90 day. So you can see it's right at 30. Here was right in this area, and then you can kind of draw an ascending line here. Maybe it looks like it's putting in a pullback here, a higher low than this low, and if it, ramps back up through 30, I think this is a good trade. I think it's going to end up, at least it looks like it wants to break 30 in the near future. So ACAT, I'll keep that on the radar. That was on last week's trade idea list. Let's see, LMAT. LMAT still looks good. It had a spot here. It actually broke. So it's still kind of an early stage breakout, right around 25. Let's see, right in there was a high. This wick somewhere, was a high over here, and then so now it's just kind of sideways, just hanging out above 25. So still very early, and I think this one could continue higher, and you could use, this rising trend line across these lows here, be a potential stop out level. So LMAT still looks like a decent trade idea going forward. See here, Cutter is another one. Basically right in this area right here. It tried to poke through on Thursday and then pulled back below that area, but it does look like it's the consolidation is looks good. Looks like it may be ready to continue higher. Cutter, I still like this one. And if you look at the longer term chart, you can see where it broke out through this high here, had a nice run up, and so it looks like it's just consolidating in a longer term uptrend. So Cutter still looks good next week. So AK Steel, this is one that I just tried to trade it a couple times here. Actually, on this day here, I tried to check, catch a breakout. I think on this day, and it failed, so I had to cut it. And then on this day, I thought it was going to go again. It had tried. Basically, I was looking at this pattern here, and then as you can see, this didn't hold up. Right, it failed and it broke through that trend line. So at this point, took a couple small losses on this one, but at this point, it could be setting up for a move higher. But I would keep this on the radar. Maybe it's got some support down here at 990, and maybe it's gonna, or maybe here, maybe it puts in a higher low here above this low, and this needs to consolidate a little bit more for a move higher. But really, the key breakout level is up here at around 11. 10, somewhere in that area, but so it's got some work to do to get back up there. So who knows at this point? But here's X. US Steel looks a little bit worse than AK Steel because it broke below this key level here of 34, which happened to be the recent pivot high when it broke, and as the support level, and then it just failed, broke below it. So at this point, I would stay away from the steels unless something constructive happens. It looks like this uptrend here is at least stalling temporarily, and it's in a resting period. So no real trend at this point in the steel sector. See, some was another one from last week, and another one that just didn't follow through. It had this spot here, tried to break, right in here, 2450 spot, broke it, and then completely fell back below it. So at this point, maybe it just needs to consolidate more, and but sometimes these things just don't follow through. As it could be the new year, whatever. But I mean, the pattern still looks like it's a nice consolidation pattern. But I would watch maybe this recent high here for a breakout through that. Maybe it puts in a bottom here. But there's some. That was one from last week we're looking at. Let's see, another biotech from last week was CYTK. This one had a spot. It looked like around 1250, but maybe looking at this chart here, it looks like maybe 1260 is more of a key level where it can't seem to break through. So once again, the biotech, if the biotechs pick up maybe, and you can see here that basically this is this 1260 area, 1250 resistance area goes back here too, back in August of last year, And so we'll see, but that's the key area. Watch that spot. Maybe these biotechs will come back on. So there's CYTK. Take a look at FELP. So FELP is one that I had a nice profit on, and then I ended up giving it back because I held it too long. And so I thought this one was going to break through this recent high, 7.6. I bought it on this day, nice gain, and then held it, and then finally I cut it somewhere in like 7.2, somewhere in that area. So I think I may have actually made a little bit of money on it, but very minuscule compared to how much I could have made. So that's just part of the game. Sometimes you hold these things too long in swing trading, and you go back and give back your profits. But at this point, probably the best trade would have been to take the profits and see if this thing could actually follow through. But and then the good thing is, I did get out before this big fall here, but maybe this is support down here for FELP. Looks like it actually may be getting into an oversold area for a bounce. So, but at this point, it definitely failed to break out and make new highs, but it actually does look like it's coming into a support level. So maybe it could be a bounce trade off of the support versus a breakout, because now it's in a kind of a range bound. So there's FELP. And then the other trade from last week that I did pretty good with was DRAM, which I missed a big part of the upside over the last few days, which kind of frustrating. But we can see here that this one had a nice spot at 170, and so I bought this one on 140, sold it the same day at like 160. So that was a good trade. And then the next important level was this 170 spot, and it failed to do it that day, and then pulled back, and the next day it ramped right through there. So I traded it again. I bought it at 174 and then sold it, I think, at 182, and then the next day, just huge up day, which I totally missed, and then it pulled back. So at this point, there's no real trade that I can see on DRAM. It's kind of extended from the 170 level, but if you were to buy this breakout through 170 and hold it, you can see where it went all the way to like $2.80. So it's a great pattern, great trade idea here, and but I traded it pretty good. I made a couple good trades on it, but I didn't catch the big move over the last few days. But if you want to look at a longer term chart of this stock, you can kind of see its tendencies, right? So this thing has a tendency to really spike and then fade off, right? So it did it here, here it had a big run and faded off, and then so now you have a big run. And so just keep that in mind when you trade this. Look at the past history of the stock, kind of get an idea of its tendencies going forward. And so at DRAM at this point, I don't really see a trade right now in it, but it did offer a great trade on this 170 break with the ascending triangle pattern like that. See that? So anyway, there's DRAM. So that's it for last week. Now let's take a look at what we have for Tuesday. So first up, let me say that the marijuana sector right now is extremely bullish, and I don't know why, but for whatever reason they're starting to perk up again. EAPH was a good trade, but there's other ones, and first up I want to look at is Cerna. So Cerna, this is my top trade for Monday. So let's take a look at this. Let's take a look at, here's a downtrend, right? Kind of across these peaks here. After it peaked out back in October, it fell all the way down here, and then it started to put in some higher lows. We can see this trend line here, right? So right here, basically this break right here was the first higher high above this high right here. See this high here? And then I had to pull back, put in a higher low. So we got a higher low, draw the uptrend line, and then now the recent pivot high was right around this 20 cents, right? So I will enter this one on Monday on this break of 20, and potentially, I think, just like GRNA, I think this thing could be heading back towards recent highs, maybe around 28. Okay, so I really like this Cerna marijuana stock here. So that's first up. Next up, take a look at TRTC. Very similar pattern, right? I mean, downtrend, 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 and then basically right in here, well, kind of a double bottom at 25, but here's a low. Kind of, this was basically a capitulation low. See the big volume spike to the downside? And it rallied, pulled back, and held a higher low. So there's your indication. And then plus, you can kind of put kind of a downtrend line like that across the peaks, a breakout, and it's starting to put in higher highs. So TRTC is an uptrend. I have a position in it from like 30 cents. So, you know, in this one, I don't know if it could head back to 54, but if the marijuana sector stays strong, I mean, who knows where this thing's going to go. But if we get a big spike to 35 or 36, I'll probably take some off. But still, I like this stock here, TRTC, another marijuana stock. MCOA, another one here. And just, you know, once again, you know, when these things took off back in October of last year, I really did really well with these things because they had huge moves. And potentially these things could be setting up for some more moves here. But, you know, here's your downtrend. And then this one, breakout, brief pullback. So watching this one for continuation. And once again, potentially this thing could be heading back to 14. You know, so we'll keep an eye on it. MCOA I like. Let's see here. Vape. Vape's another one here. This vape pulled back, consolidated here in a sideways pattern, and then broke out through this high here, somewhere in this area here. See that? See these candle wicks here, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then broke out. It's pretty good volume too. So once again, another marijuana stock that looks to be beginning this new uptrend after pulling back. So vape is a good one here to watch. OWCP, another marijuana play. See, here's the downtrend. Right here's a downtrend line. Broke it. Put in this, broke out through right in here. 3 days up, big, brief pullback, and then so through 18 is a good one here. Through 18, and then the next spot is right on this 20 cents, and then potentially on to, you know, new highs, breaking out to new highs. So keep an eye on OWCP. I really like that one. Okay, let's see. And then this PMCB is another one that really like. The marijuana play here. This one had a nice uptrend, put in this high right on 16 cents, and then tried to break it, pulled back, and so now it's consolidating just below 16. So it looks to me like it's kind of creating an ascending triangle pattern here, and I would watch that one for a break of 16 if the marijuana sector stays strong, which it appears that it will be. And let's see here. It's another one. This is not a marijuana stock, but this $10 level here on this stock here, I really like this kind of pattern. It's consolidating just below that spot, and you can kind of draw maybe like that. And I would watch this one for a break of 10 on expanding volume. It's a pretty nice looking chart pattern. It's consolidating in this base for quite a while, and in the pattern just looks good. I think it's like a semiconductor stock, which that sector has been strong recently, so I like that one. I think we already talked about Cutter, but that's also on the watch list for this week, so watching that one. DAKT is a new one to the watch list, right on this 1080 spot. You know, here's resistance, tap tap, 3 times. So we'll see if it can break out of this flag, you know, slash basing pattern here on DAKT. Looks pretty good for next week. And then let's see, ARC, was that one? Yeah, ARC. Here's a resistance level here. Let's see. All right, so right in here, it's 510, somewhere in that spot there. All right, come on. So there it is. You know, right here, touched it, right there, touched it, and so if it can break out through that, this one looks pretty good. I forget what this one is, what sector it's in, but ARC, nice look. And then, let's see, is there anything else? Let's see, MCFT, was that one? Yeah. MCFT, this was a, I think they sell like boats, recreational vehicles. But this is a nice pattern here, closed right near this recent high. 14, let's see, 71-ish, you know, one to watch there. It's closed right near that breakout level there. So I think that one looks pretty good for next week. And so that's it for now, guys. I hope 2017 turns out to be great for you guys. And if you need anything, just send me an email or contact me on Twitter. But so that's what I'm seeing for next week. Strength in the marijuana sector. The other sectors appear to be consolidating, and we'll see what Tuesday brings. So, and then also take a look at some of the real estate investment trusts. A lot of those are showing some nice patterns for next week as well. So, all right, guys, have a good day. Have a good Monday, and we'll see you guys on Tuesday. Thanks.